Marijuana, I have asked so many of my friends what it's like. And then they explain it to me and I'm like, oh, I might as well drink. So I have never tried marijuana.
Right.
Virgin.
Okay.
I have smoked a lot of cigarettes and smoked a lot of marijuana.
Okay.
Right. So I'm not.
So we have both of you
because this
here,
is on
no?
camera, and Abel, Miles, if you're watching, I'm not condoning it, not endorsing it.
Hey there, I'm Andy O, the pastor of Generations Church. This is our podcast, and you just tuned in to the Generations on Tuesday edition. Generations on Tuesday, or GOT, is an alternative church experience. It's church, but a little different. No platform, no pulpit, no one preacher, but rather the focus is on Christ, community, and conversations. We have a special heart for those who are in the creative, arts, entertainment, media, music, F&B, and similar communities. And we want to provide a safe space to explore and discover faith in Jesus, but in a not so conventional way. We hope you'll be inspired and impacted by today's dialogue, where we keep it real, raw, and relevant on topics that matter. So let's get right into it. Be blessed.
One of our focuses and targets, one of our target groups, if I may say that, is people who live and breathe, work, exist in the creative industry. Our heart goes out to people who work in the industry. I don't know if I can consider myself one of those people. I am also a songwriter, not a very good one. I try to sing like Jaclyn. I try to sing. So I have friends who are in industry, and I kind of have been through that experience and whatever highs and lows. And I feel like, sometimes creatives can be maybe misunderstood or misjudged. So I thought, let's have two creatives who are still active in the industry, and also Christians, creatives who are practicing the faith. Let's hear what it's really like from your view. Is that okay? So we'll do that tonight, all right? Okay, so let's get straight into it. You have your opportunity to ask questions, but I'll ask the questions for now, and then as we talk and you get inspired, you can use the QR code to ask further questions. Okay, let me first introduce what you can also find on Wikipedia. Because I actually asked Jaclyn, hey, go write up. Can I have a write up? She's like, check la Wikipedia. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
I didn't use that tone.
I'm very jealous. I actually had to write one.
I'm so sorry. No, I didn't mean that. You know what my schedule's been like.
Of course. No, but I checked Wikipedia and it's got everything there. Like, it's good. It's great. So I'm just going to try. And you're here, you can correct. Because Wikipedia,
Yes.
people can go and edit themselves. Okay, Jaclyn Joshua Tanaraj Victor. Wow, full name. Who went and got your IC lah? It's a Malaysian singer, we all know that, don't we? Actress, businesswoman. I watched her on TV when the very first edition of Malaysian Idol came out, and she has the honor of being the very first Malaysian Idol. I'm pretty sure she doesn't want to be an idol, but that's the award. Icon Malaysia, these awards, Gaga Vaganza Season 9, All Stars, all kinds, okay? As of 2024, this year, Jaclyn has already won 10 Anugerah Industry Music Awards. It's the Malaysian equivalent of the Grammy Awards. Some say better than the Grammys. And a whole list of things, okay? Which you can get on Wikipedia. So go search yourself. Okay. So that's Jaclyn, and later I'll ask you more questions to get to know more. But we have Leon also. Of course, I start with the ladies first, right? Leon, Director of Content and Creative at HTBB, Anglican Church in KL, very happening. I think he started full-time in the church around the pandemic time, the period.
3 years ago.
3 years ago. He's currently the interim chairman of PEMANDU. His father, who is the not acting chairman, is on sabbatical, but he's now taken on that role also. And he's also a creator and co-host of his own podcast called The Game of Impossible. So go check that out.
Taking a lot of notes today, lighting, camera.
That's
nice,
right.
nice. I'm going to steal that.
Yes. We were inspired by your podcast, so We learn from each other. That's great, right? Leon happens to be a very good singer too.
Yay!
Yes. So we've got singers in the house today. Okay, so let's get to getting to know you guys before we get to the meat, the real questions.
The serious questions.
Yes. So Jaclyn, when did you first realize that you were made, you were born for the creative industry? Like, okay, I'm not gonna be a doctor, engineer, lawyer. I'm gonna do this. When did you first realize that?
Wow, I think when we're growing up, when we're around standard 1, standard 2, you're like, when they ask you, apa cita-cita, what do you
Yes.
want to be when you grow up? I'm like, I don't know, and then everyone's like, doctor, cikgu, this and that. So I just used to, okay lah, whatever, let's just fill it up for the sake of filling it up. But I think around the time when I was about 12, maybe, I was listening to a lot of gospel music, and I just loved singing. That something that I did without even thinking. I would just be always singing. So I remember saying to my mom, I wonder if I could do this. But I wasn't thinking too seriously about it. It was just a thought that crossed my mind, maybe about 12 years old. And I said to my mother, wow, it would be so great if I was able to just do this. This is like so amazing to be able to do. So I would say about 12. Consciously thinking about
12,
it,
yeah. Okay, would you say your mom was a big inspiration or encourager at least?
My mother has always been up for me singing, even when it was in the clubs and with the band and all of that. So you know how they say Christians are misunderstood, or musicians are misunderstood.
Yeah.
But my mom has never stopped me from singing. She's always been like, go.
Great. Thank
Yes.
God for moms like this. How about Leon? How about you? When did you first realize that you were made for the creative industry?
Yeah, so for me, I think I'm like a reluctant creative. So I think I've always tried to want to do other things other than leading into my sort of creative giftings. But we also, between me and my dad, we always have this thing, and we say that life is a continuous reduction of options. So I think my realization that I think I'm probably called into the field of creativity was just by sheer virtue of trying a lot of other things and then realizing I'm not good at those things, and then returning to the default of creativity. And I think for me, the expression of that was music, but also art. So those two things.
When we first met, I was introduced to you, and the person who introduced me to you said you're an artist. I'm like, oh, like a singer, artist, or what? No, like an actual painter. I'm like, oh wow, great. Yeah, I've never met like a painter in my life, and so you're like the first one in the flesh.
And when I tell people, I used to wonder, do I say I'm an artist? But if I say I'm an artist, then people might think I'm a singer.
Yeah.
Then I started to think, okay, maybe I'll say painter.
Yeah.
But then when I said painter, a lot of people were like, oh, so you paint wall one?
Yeah, can you renovate my house or something? Right, okay. So Leon, why don't you continue on? What would you say is your proudest, or you would consider your greatest achievement so far as a creative?
I think the greatest achievement was a time where this was back in 2015, and we were doing this conference, and part of the conference we wanted to set an impossible target. And the impossible target was to get ourselves in the Guinness Book of Records. So and another one of my cousins, some of you might know her. Her name is Elena Murang. We decided to do a painting and to do this. But we said what we want to do is we don't want to make it about us. We want to make it a collective experience for everyone. And so the category was Guinness Book of Records, world record for the highest number of contributions to a painting by numbers. And so what we did is we had this huge canvas, and we basically labeled, if you guys have done like a painting by numbers, so we had little sections, and what it was this kind of image of a tree of life, a very Bornean, Sarawakian motif, and we ended up getting, the record to beat was 2,000. I believe we ended up getting 3,300 contributions to that painting.
Wow.
So it was a massive collective effort. And I think that was my proudest achievement, because that was being able to facilitate and be a part of something that was bigger than us, and to allow other people to contribute. So that was really magical.
So good. How about you? Malaysian Idol or something else?
I want to say for a long time I was holding on to this one. I was so proud when President Obama visited Malaysia the first time. I can't remember what year, maybe 2013. I got to sing for him, so that was like a big moment for me. But I've just had so many amazing opportunities to do a lot of things. Including have my kids. Yeah, because I was so caught up with my work and stuff. I never really thought that I would be able to have kids. So to actually have 2 children who are healthy, who are bouncing about and stuff, that's one of my things
So
as a
good.
mom. Yeah, to be a mom.
Yeah. So good. I want to ask you, and then before we move on to the deeper stuff, what do you think? What would you say is something most people don't know about you that you don't mind revealing tonight?
What people don't know about me.
Yeah.
This can be anything, right?
Anything.
Okay, this is my real hair. I'm actually gray. I am actually gray. So people think this is deliberately
something.
done, but it's actually gray.
Wow.
Yeah. So some people like it, some people hate it, and they're not shy about telling me. Yeah.
My wife saw your picture and said she's so beautiful. So
thank
my wife likes
you.
it. Thank you. Yeah, it's so good. How about you? What's something that you think most people don't know about you?
People look at me and think I'm a very zen, chirpy person, especially now that I work for a church.
Yeah.
But I used to, and maybe sometimes need to suppress massive road rage, actually. I'm quite an angry boy.
Okay.
Same gang, this one. Same gang.
Thanks for telling us.
Maybe we've yelled at each other on the behind the
Probably,
wheel
maybe this
without
morning
realizing.
on the way. Okay. Thank you so much for the introductions. I feel like I know you all a bit better now than before.
You don't want to meet us on the road.
Wait, you haven't seen me on the road. So yeah, maybe.
Oh wow, they're all laughing. They know something we don't. Okay.
Those laughing is probably teenagers that used to be in my car before. Yeah, I always tell them this is how I train your prayer life.
Right.
Yeah, you hang on to dear life and to God. Amen. All right. So let's get into the topic. We've entitled tonight's topic to be Christian Creatives, Double Life or Single Mission. I think that's hinting at, some people think that, there's no way you can be a Christian and also in the creative industry. Some people assume that the creative industry is tough, challenging, all kinds of nonsense happens there. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Maybe you can set the record straight, but really, can you really be a Christian and creative? Don't you have to get naked in movies? How do you do that? Don't you have to sing certain lyrics that is so it's not possible. So so is it really a double life when you're a Christian creative? Or there's no real such thing, you're the same person, you have one single mission, you're trying to be the same person there and here. So these are the kind of the issues that we're surrounded by tonight, all right? So let's get started with that. Is there really a separation? Is there really a dichotomy between what some would say the sacred world, which is, I guess, if there was such a separation, then in the sacred world, you have God, faith, in our case, our religion, the Bible, worship songs, and then you got Michael Jackson songs, and you got is that really that separation? Because then there's this secular divide, this secular side where it's all the non-spiritual stuff, your job, your pet, your bank account. What do you personally believe? Is there a separation? Is there a very clear separation, or is it more like a mingling, or is it none at all? It's all one and the same. Does the full-time church worker want to go first with this? Yeah.
In theory, my position is that there shouldn't be a distinction between secular and church. We see that in the fact that Jesus was both fully human and fully God as well. He wasn't half-half. There was no splitting. But then obviously that's quite difficult to do in practice. Because in practice, like maybe if I talk about, now it's kind of easy because I'm in a church environment.
Yeah.
But if I look back to when I was in advertising, agency life, it was a certain kind of way. You know, we were always big drinking culture, and so that was challenging. I think, and to be honest, when I was in that period of my life, I did separate church life, how I was with the people that I would see in church, and people that I would be around at work. But I think as I've sort of gotten older, I realized that actually when you do that, you kind of lose out on the magic, because if our goal as Christians is ultimately to point others to Jesus, if we are not first of all being in the world. If we are not integrating and mingling with people outside of a church context, we're preaching to the choir, right?
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to ask myself, how can I put myself in positions where I'm constantly around non-Christians, but while I'm there, what's that kind of distinctive of being a Christian that I can continue to show in those environments without necessarily preaching the gospel to them, but really focusing on a certain value system and getting them to then ask the question, well, what makes Leon like that? That then becomes a good entry to talk about, oh, actually, that's because I have a faith in someone called Jesus, rather than sort of Bible bashing.
Yes.
So I think there's a real beauty when we're able to find that intersection of the two things.
So good. Yeah. Wow. How about you, Jack?
Okay, so your question is whether there is a line. I actually think that a lot of people sacrifice one for the other, where I don't think you need to. So just like Leon, I also had a dark past. Gosh,
Wow.
I was very naughty. But I think God has still been very, very gracious and very, very good to me. But talking about this, like, I feel right now that I am in a really good place where faith and my profession and the whatever I do lah, on the side of faith, there is no line, because I think what he was trying to say is walk the talk. If you are walking the talk, not just, and like I say, I was in a very bad place before with the whole drinking thing and the party, maybe not even going to church. But through all of that, I am now a totally different person. So, and it's very timely because lately, I keep getting invited to speak. And I'm thinking I don't really have that much to share. But when I actually think about it, how my life has turned around and how God has, the way I'd like to describe it is God yanking me back, like, okay, all right, you're going to play it too long already, now come back. And it was literally that, and my whole life changed. So I think it is possible to have it both.
Yeah.
You can have a relationship with God. You can walk the talk, be this person in that industry and still make it. And I think I dare say that I am living proof. Like, I took part in all these competitions where I am like the only, let's say, Christian there, or whatever lah. And I think, without mentioning all the challenges that I had to go through with just the competition, like if I'm only speaking about that and how God really lifted me up, I didn't have to change who I was. I didn't care who was around me. I would put on my AirPods. I would be singing my gospel songs. I would be just praying out loud. And I used to be someone who was very afraid to rock the boat. So if I was, say I'm on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and I see this beautiful quote and I'm thinking, oh, I really want to repost this. But I used to have this fear like, oh my goodness, like really scared. Like maybe I shouldn't. Where now I really don't care, because God has been good to me all along, but I have really experienced His love and His glory, and I cannot deny God, and I will not deny God, because He has never denied me. So I think one of the ways and people do come up and say things like that, like they, without saying it, they'll be like, how come this girl's so different? And we got Juwita here, Juwita Suito, Auntie Hannah. So when we used to journey together, right? And her brother used to say the same thing. And that was this time when we used to meet every once a month. And I used to be this girl who's there constantly. I'm like participating, but not really because I'm still a bit lost lah. So I know who my God is. I know how great God is, but I didn't care too much because I was prioritizing my work. I'm too tired to get up to go to church. If Pastor Daniel Ho says, okay, so let's pray, and then he looks around the room and I'm like, okay, please don't call me, please don't call me, please don't call me. Honestly, because I felt like I didn't have the vocabulary, I could not pray in front of people, and then something happened in my life where, like I said, God yanked me back in. It felt like as if when you buka pili air besar-besar and the water just comes whoosh.
Yeah.
It was a bit like that, and then I just couldn't contain myself anymore. So from being who I was, where I was, to who I am right now and where I am right now, I'm still learning. I'm still not I'm not an angel. I'm trying my best to be the best that I can be, obviously, as a human being. But it is easy to say walk the talk, but it's not always easy.
Yeah.
But whenever we fall, it's like a quick reminder. Like if you just in out of anger or whatever it is that you might do, that way you slip a little bit and you're like, but you're like quick to come back. You're quick to ask God. So it's something that the people around me have noticed lah. So especially if you're a non-believer, you're like, why ah? So isn't that like an amazing thing that you can have this and have that at the same time? You don't need to compromise your faith. You don't need to not say God is good or whatever lah. I just feel like that shift in me and the people around me noticing it has been so great.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so what I'm hearing is like there doesn't need to be that line. There isn't really one. That you can practice what you believe in.
it's priority. What do you want?
Yeah.
So some people will be willing to I'm going to put you aside, God,
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
and I want to go do my thing. I want to have fun. I need to be famous. I need to sacrifice whatever to be this somebody, but I don't think you need to lah. In my personal humble opinion.
Do you mind, both of you, of course, sharing maybe a practical example, like maybe a situation where you could have gone the other way, like compromise on a value or made a compromising decision, but you didn't. Like practically, how does that? Like you mentioned, like, in theory, of course, there isn't a divide, we're the same person, and all that. But like, how do you, in practice, do that?
I can share a very recent example.
Okay, yeah.
So I was driving home from work, and there's at this one intersection I decided to drop a voice note. If you're familiar with Abel, who's the associate vicar of our church, he loves sending voice notes. So he sent a voice note, and I thought, okay, maybe I'll reply in a voice note as well since I'm driving. Took out my phone, I literally recorded 2 seconds worth of my voice note, and the next thing you know, policeman pulled up beside me. And at this point, real moral dilemma, because I was really rushing to get home to make sure that I'm back in time to take over from my wife to do my kids' bedtime. So I'm thinking, I really can't afford to spend time like going to the balai and all that. And then of course, how the conversation ensues. He says, so macam mana? And I just said, you know what? It's okay lah. You bagi saman saja lah.
Yeah.
Like, you sure or not? You sure or not? Yeah. Really, just give the saman. And then he just kind of looks at me, and he just goes, really? Yeah. Just give me the saman. And then he pauses and he says, you Christian ke?
Ooh.
So I said, yeah. And then he was like,
Wow.
I respect your agama, you respect my agama, and because of that, it's okay, don't do that again.
Wow.
So sometimes it pays just to be very open about your position. And yeah.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. How about you, Jack?
I have similar stories, but I'm always rushing as well, and I'm like, just please give me the saman. I have to pick up my kids. Exactly the same.
Yeah.
But no one's asked me if you're a Christian lah. But no, I would never, and I would never like try to bribe anybody. I'd be like, oh my goodness, I'd be too scared to do so. But I wouldn't do it anyway. So a situation that I might have been in where
you could have compromised on your values, like for maybe a split second or for just that day, you become unchristian or something.
I don't know if this. I've become unchristian. I often, because of the industry I'm in, I often get people saying very blatantly to my face, perhaps you should let go of your faith and become this or become that. And I'm like, wow, that's very bold. And so, like I say, walking in that secular, sacred line, whether there's a line or not. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people would just for the sake of, because they say, oh, if you do this, your life will get better, because of who you are in the industry. And I'm like, really? I couldn't. So even when I was a naughty girl, that thought just never crossed my mind. Like, how can you turn away from our God? Cannot. So for me, it's like, again, when you're getting it to your face multiple times, you might think, right? People might think, can maybe. But I'm like, I'll just smile very politely and like, okay. And then walk away. Whereas you see in society that a lot of people would just for the sake of.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that counts. Am I answering your question?
Yeah. I mean, it's not about me, but if I can just offer an example from my life, when I first started working in the video production company, I was a producer. And being a producer, you have to manage upwards and also downwards, like your crew and then also your bosses and all that. So you're given certain budget to run a production. You kind of have to manage both ways, and you got to be nice to everybody. So I was new on the scene, and to a certain extent, you have to kind of gain people's trust, gain people's favor, make sure they don't hate you already on the first day. And so there's this situation in the office where the whole crew was watching porn in the office, literally in the office, and they're watching, and they're like, Andy, come over. I'm thinking that, maybe it's a simple thing, maybe none of you would have seen that as any challenge. I'm not like, I want to watch porn. I'm just thinking, man, if I turn them down, do they think I'm a square? Or this guy, let's not work with him. I had a split moment of supposed to be a simple decision. Of course you don't watch porn, especially not in the office. But that was not, what's on my mind was...
With other men.
No, it was
with other people, I mean.
And also a whole bunch of people. But I'm thinking, on my mind was how do I fit in? And then repent later, because God is so gracious and all that. But like most of you, there was that moment where you go, no, I cannot compromise this. I cannot let go. Give the devil an inch, take a foot. So I said no. And they actually ridiculed me and say, you're a square, you're no fun. And I'm like, okay, that's it, time to find a new job. Wow. But after a while, the next time a group started watching, some of them said, no need to ask Andy, he won't come on. He's not like that. So it becomes a testimony. So I don't know. So my pressure was fitting in. My pressure was being liked. My pressure was just survive another day, to just climb the ladder. For you guys, in your world, in your creative world, what would it be like? Because the assumption is, or the perception from the outside is, the creative industry is all about fame, followers, gaining more followers, or gaining financial gain, right? Or that's what we see. Oh, you're a singer, or you must be rich. Wow, it's all this flashy stuff, right? And to a certain extent, it may be true. But how do you maintain a sense of focus and purpose? So if you say, I'm a Christian, and as far as I'm concerned, there's no line, right? I please God in church. I will please God on the set or in the studio or whatever, right? But then, when does this come? It's the question of fame, gain a financial advantage, get more followers. Does that ever put pressure on you? How do you maintain your focus and your sense of purpose in times like this?
I'd love to hear your answer first, actually.
Okay. I think, okay, if you look at the big picture, right, why am I where I am? Why? Why is it that I knew ever since I was a kid I love singing, and I think I've come such a long way in my industry, in doing what I love doing. Regardless whether I am the color of my skin or how I speak or how I look or whatever it is, regardless of all of that, I am still relevant in the industry 20 odd years on. So God has put me here for a purpose. And I feel this very strongly. So if God has put you there, then there is a reason why you're there, right? And I feel no matter what, He's going to take care of you. He's going to have your back. So even when I post all these things that I've posted, I mean, you see such amazing things on Instagram. Like sometimes you see some really great things, right? That's talking about God, or even Jesus lah. Jesus is the one that people are like, oh, you know, when you say God, it's very general, right? So Jesus. And when I post, I don't often look at whether I'm losing followers. Again, I don't want to be somebody who's afraid anymore.
Yeah.
So I used to be afraid for whatever the reason, whatever it was that I was worried about at that time. But again, having experienced God, having this whole relationship to say no, God, I'm not going to put this out there, because sometimes I feel like I'm doing it for me. I feel like I'm this is my proclamation, how I'm going to tell people, right? But people don't like it. People don't like it lah. And therefore they might unfollow me. I don't care, but I get my friends who I've been journeying with who say, you know, Jackie, that's your testimony, or that's your story, or that's how you get the word out there. That's how you put Jesus out there. Which, again, for me is like, no biggie, what? So I don't care. I care what God's gonna say to me, especially when you know now for a fact that you serve such a great God. What things that He's done for you, how can you deny Him? So that is my thing. I don't care lah. You wanna unfollow me, unfollow lah. God has always provided. God has always done so much for me. Whether I'm good or whether I'm bad, I choose now to be good and be even better than I was before. So that's my thing. So if I'm looking at it on that kind of a perspective, if I'm going to lose followers, like my followers grow very slow. It's always stuck there because people follow, then they unfollow. Whoever lah, follow, there's always more unfollow than follow. So for whatever reason, but I really don't care. I mean, the world belongs to the fleur, right? The bad fleur. So we don't care lah. As long as you can walk as well as you can in the world, as long as you, like I literally had someone say this to me when during the competition GB night, there was a lot of stuff happening, spiritual stuff, there was a lot, but I prayed, and it was a month, this thing that happened to me that God yanking me back happened a month before GB9. And I felt like that was Him saying, you got to prepare yourself for what's coming in this. So there was a lot of stuff happening. And I remember one of the episodes where I had to stand by the audience, and I'm terrible with lyrics. I always forget my lyrics and all that. So I'm really trying to focus because I am not anywhere near the stage. I'm standing near the crowd.
That's really encouraging to hear.
So, and I'm looking up at this light, and I'm praying. God, just help me. I'm praying, right? After I came off stage, I had an actress come up to me, and she had just come back from Mecca. She just come back from Umrah or Haji or something. And she's like so excited to see me, and she's like, babe. I'm like, yes. I see it. I see your faith. And I'm sorry, what? I see it. I see your faith. And all I was doing was looking at the light, and I'm praying in my heart, and I'm praying, and I'm again I don't care how people want to think I'm crazy. I'm talking to myself, whatever. I'm just praying. And she said that to me, and I was like, whoa, what does that even mean? She says this as she's just come back from Mecca, and she said, I see your faith. So I forget the purpose of me telling you this right now, but what I'm trying to say is, so sorry, I'm terrible. Way past my bedtime. Teruk lah saya
So
ni.
we were talking about like how do you maintain a sense of purpose?
Yeah. So I think my prayer is always, God, let your light shine through me.
Yeah.
Let your light, let people see you through me. So that's why I'm like, no matter how, no matter what, and I have this penyakit also, I like people to like me. I like people to like me. Everybody wants to be loved and liked. But I wouldn't stoop to levels that I know is not right lah.
Yeah.
You know? So a lot of people meet me and for whatever reason they think I'm a snob or whatever, and then they meet me in person, they're like, oh, you're actually really nice. I'm like, okay. So just, I keep saying this, just be the best person that you can be, whether it's behind closed doors, whether it's out in the open, just be the best that you can be.
Yeah.
Because even in your best, you're still not that there yet, you know what I mean? We're all trying to reach, to meet the mark, but we are only human beings, and we, no matter how hard you try sometimes, no matter how you're trying to be good, there's certain things like your children drive you up the wall, you shout, whatever, you just, you know, we're only human, so.
Yeah. That's why we need the grace of God. His grace is, His strength is made perfect in our weakness, right? Before we go to you, I just want to do a follow-up
Very
question.
long-winded, I am sorry.
No problem. We can cut. Just kidding. Just kidding. So you kept mentioning that something about I don't care. That I want to just follow on that. I mean, how do you get that level of don't care? Because I'm just thinking about, say, a struggling artist or someone who has not won any award yet, still trying to make it. They kind of have to care because they have like 3 followers. And or like, you know, and they lost 4. I don't know how to, it's easy for some
Easy
of us
for me
to
to
say,
say.
right? But how do you reach that level where you can go, actually, you know what? It's really not that important. There are more important things, right? I think that's what you're trying to say. I don't care because there are more important things.
See, that's the problem in this day and age right now. Everything is about acceptance. Everything is about how many likes. People go into depression because that one person who liked your Instagram post suddenly unliked it. Do you know what I mean? So people are so affected by this. So in this day and age, it is a very big struggle, and this whole mental health issue and depression, it's all very, very real.
Yep.
That is one question I'm not sure how to answer. But I think, tak tahu saya.
Yeah, we may not have the answer, but it's something to think about, right? It's like, how do we reach a place where we kind of have an internal sense of what's really important and what's not so important? And I don't think there's a shortcut to like, oh, you just wake up one day, like, I want to be like Jaclyn. I remember watching this podcast and she said, just don't care about the followers and you'll be okay. Like, oh, does it just because I watch a podcast?
I mean,
And then
I get days where I post something and I think, wow, this is going to do so well, and then it doesn't. But I'm like, whatever lah. Really, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever lah.
But in order for you to realize that, you would have had to have posted that thing to begin with. So I've recently been toying with this idea of, you know, just realizing that hindsight is such a great crystal ball into giving you clarity over things. And to that effect, actually, failure is also such a great teacher, right?
Yeah.
And so when I started to think, because I was having this discussion with my dad recently about we know the things that we are supposed to do. So let's say, for example, the conversation we were having was about work-life harmony. We like to talk about work-life harmony because I personally don't think that you can truly achieve excellence if you're thinking of a work-life balance. Because to have a balance assumes a fixed fulcrum.
Yeah.
And in order for you to have balance, you're assuming a kind of duality of, let's say, for example, it's family and work.
Yeah.
And so if we look at it through that lens, then in order to have balance, I am going to have to spread myself thin to do a bit of a 50-50 type of job.
Yeah.
Which means I'll be mediocre in my work, I'll be mediocre in being present with my family as well. So we've been saying, yeah, it's easy to say that, right? But is there not actually value in having experienced what it's like to maybe only spend a season really focusing on your work and seeing the repercussions of that play out in real life, you know, coming home and realizing, oh gosh, I've just not been present at home. You know, my wife and I were constantly arguing. That makes that very real.
Yeah.
And had I not have been through a season of doing that, and you know, to a degree, even maybe neglecting myself, neglecting family, I would not have that conviction then to know, okay, now that I've experienced that, I know what this feels like, I know what burnout feels like, and because I know what those signs are, I know what the symptoms are, I'm able to recognize it and now able to regulate before it happens again. So this idea of like, if we take it back to this topic of seeking fame, performance, it's the same thing in the, I think, you know, as a worship leader, in the early stages of leading worship, if I were to be perfectly honest with all of you, I think a lot of it was fueled by me wanting to just be the best. Me wanting to make sure that I'm singing well, not necessarily because I want to give God the best offering, but sometimes just because I want to sound good in front of other people.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of that as well going on. But I think I had to experience doing that to the point where I realized, oh yeah, actually that I've been doing all of this, and actually there's no fruit coming out of this. People are not really leaning in worship. You know, so I had to go through that to realize. And so it's like, maybe now talking from a maybe work standpoint, I think one of the things that I initially struggled with when I went from corporate into ministry was having to rethink. Social media is one of the portfolios that I handle. And I remember coming from like an agency, coming from a consulting firm as well. You have all of these tried and tested strategies, and it would be so easy to just lean on those things and say, you know, if we do this, we do that hook, this piece of content is 100% going to do really well.
Yeah.
But when I came into ministry, I started realizing that every time I would propose something to our pastoral team, they would always ask, what's the fruit that we want out of this? And so my natural tendency would be like, oh yeah, our fruit is we want to get X number of followers, X number of views.
Yeah.
No. What's the fruit? What do we really want to achieve? And so that caused us to completely rethink what's actually the objective of social media in our sense.
Yeah.
And you know, after spending a couple of days workshopping this, we realized that actually what we want our social media, all of our digital platforms to be, is really not so much an avenue for people to see what the church does, but to become a space for us to pastor people, to pastor through content.
Yeah.
And so we asked ourselves, okay, what does this, it sounds very nice and it's a nice thing to say on a podcast, but how does this play out in real life?
Yeah,
We've got to
yeah.
actually make it happen, right? So we said, okay, what would constitute being pastored? Okay, what would be the metrics? How do we measure that? So you figured, okay, maybe if our true north is to pastor through content, maybe we shouldn't be looking at likes. Maybe we shouldn't be looking at followers, because that's passive engagement. It's superficial, exactly. Yeah. And so we thought, okay, maybe a better measure of that is, are people saving this piece of content? Because if they're saving it, then they're probably finding it useful, and it might be something that they might want to refer to later, meditate on later.
Yeah.
Are they sharing it? Because if they're sharing it, then we're essentially encouraging people to evangelize as well. And that's part of making disciples, right? Getting people involved in the process, getting people to point to Jesus. And so we said, for this season, we're only going to focus on these two metrics, saves and shares. And so we did that. And in doing that, actually, we started to experience that. A lot of people started to unfollow us because it's like, why's your content so boring now? Your content is all like teaching lah, like sermon recap lah, all this. And so we've got a lot of people unfollowing, and growth was very stagnant. But then what we realized is, while growth in a superficial sense was stagnant for a while, because we were just so razor focused on saying it's okay, we just want that quality engagement. As long as people are sharing, as long as people are saving, we're good. Actually, what happened is, over a longer period of time, that then translated to growth, because as more people saved, you know, for those of you who are in social media, then that bumps you up the algorithm because it's recognized as quality engagement. But then for those people who are sharing, then they are essentially helping you to widen your reach as well. So in the end, you take a step back, you know, but you end up taking two steps forward. as
It's
well.
like a tsunami, the pullback. Then
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So in a way, it's like going for quality rather than quantity, because likes is pretty much it's a quantity thing, right? Um, so as you were both talking, I'm just thinking like the creative industry, right? Is so whether it's painting or singing or acting or designing, right? They're all very visual. Like the work that you do is to be seen. I mean, like literally to be seen, to be enjoyed, to be consumed, right? So sometimes it's hard to differentiate between like I must sing well so that people will like my singing. I mean, you've been in the Christian circle long enough. We know all the Christian jargons to say, I'm doing it for God. Wow, so good. Yeah, it's all God. Hey, your voice so nice. Oh no, God created my voice. Like we know all that. I'm like, but I'm thinking, I'm trying to get into your private world, your mind, right? Like this thing about humility. We know the right answer is, oh yeah, no matter how high you go, you must be humble. We know what's the right thing to say. But what actually goes through your, how do you keep yourself humble? How do you actually keep yourself humble?
Wow. Oh yeah. Very easy. It's very easy. You're up here right now. I've got 1/3 within not even a second. Boom. Everything can be gone. But I'm not trying to be good because I want to stay where I am. But I'm just grateful for everything that I have, and therefore, people always ask the question, "Oh, has fame changed you, or are you now changed because of who you are? You did this, you did that, and whatever." And I'm like, do I really need to change? I don't think I need to change. I mean, what I've achieved is one thing, but who I am as a person, sama saja. Hopefully better as a person when now I recognize, how amazing God is. I keep coming back to this, I know, sorry, like a broken record, but how can someone choose to turn away from God when you know how amazing He is? I just don't get it. I cannot. How can you be being brought up with the knowledge of who God is to still be able to like, okay, bye. So that's my what's the thing, that moral compassing? Not moral compass. What's the word?
Your true north, your moral compass.
Yeah.
And so it's a sense of reverence for God, enough to not take His glory from Him.
And don't take God for granted, because I think a lot of people actually take God for granted, or you keep repeating the things that you say you won't be repeating, or mistakes that you make that you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, but I won't do it again, but then you do it again. So it's a very not difficult, I think if you choose true obedience, it's a great place to be, but it's a very hard place to get to, I think. If I can admit it, it's like you want to do right by God all the time, but it's hard. It's hard. We're mere puny human beings.
How about you, like how do you, I mean, like creative, your work is seen and appreciated and valued and liked. How do you stay, in a way,
Grounded?
Grounded, not to absorb into that and be able to say thank you, but stay humble and know how to give God the glory in all of that. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I've personally found this very difficult, actually, if I have to be honest. Because I've just always been a competitive person. It's the way that I've been brought up as well. My dad has always said, when I was very young, he would tell me, son, part of the reason why I have been able to be successful, and he said, I hope that you will also look at yourself like this and ask these kinds of questions, is because maybe for context. So my dad, he grew up in the jungles of Borneo, so they lived in little wooden houses, wooden huts. Never saw the world outside until he was 16 years old. So they lived literally in the jungles of Borneo, where in order for him to be able to go to the nearest town, he and my grandparents would have to walk for sometimes up to 5 days through the jungle to get to the nearest town to buy supplies. So that was the kind of surrounding, and that was his upbringing. So he said that how I managed to get out of the jungle is that I would lie in bed every night, and every night I'd look up at the ceiling, and I would imagine myself as someone doing great things, and he would tell himself, and he said, I would tell myself, no one in the world is better than you, and he would just repeat this over and over and over again, and so that was the thing that he imparted in me, is that you must tell yourself there's no one better than you. Which made it
visualization.
which was great. But then it also led to a lot of problems, because I would say that there have been many times where I think the pursuit of doing the impossible, the pursuit of excellence, has, if I were to be perfectly honest, a lot of times been actually at the expense of other people, sometimes at the expense of my own health as well.
Yeah.
So that's been something that's quite difficult for me. It's not natural. So one of the things that I was really fascinated and very touched by is when I was studying theology back in this was back in 2016. There was this piece of art, and it's this image of John the Baptist constantly pointing. They call it the finger, right? And I'm like, why is this dude always pointing? What's he pointing at? And like, is he giving someone the bird, like flipping someone off? Okay. But then I realized that what was so cool about it is the reason why he was pointing is that in everything that he did, he always made it a point to point back to Jesus. Yeah. And he was someone who was so influential, he could have easily have just claimed all the glory for himself. But he didn't. He always said, someone greater than I will come. And he always pointed to Jesus. And I thought that was so profound and really spoke to me. So much so that I ended up getting a tattoo of it as a reminder. So that's John. Everyone always thinks it's Jesus, but it's actually John the Baptist with the finger.
Yes, the finger.
Pointing to God, so that in everything you do, you point to God. But that's, again, it's one of those things, like you mentioned, it's all easier said than done. So what I try to do is, I've really just been focusing on what are like little small habits that I can develop that will help me remind myself to do that. Yeah. And it just starts with a daily audit. I have like a set structure in my prayer, and part of that is just asking God, what do you want to do today?
Yeah.
And I've been wrestling with this idea. It used to sound, maybe some of you might be familiar, but there's this phrase that's thrown around quite a bit, and I used to use it as well, which is less of me, more of you, God. Yeah. But I've been like wrestling with this concept a little bit over the past few years, and I started to question, actually, is that truly what God wants? For it to truly be a case of less of me and more of God. I think I'm probably leaning more towards an idea of actually, in order for us to fully point to Jesus, maybe the ask is actually, God, use all of me to reflect more of you. Wow. And I think that's just really been the prayer that I do every single day, because every day there's gonna be reasons for me, or like you use the word temptation. There's gonna be temptations to want to take the glory, but I think something like that just helps sort of reset your posture on a daily basis, and it has to be done on a daily basis.
So what I'm hearing is there's no switch. You can't just switch it off. Like, oh, I sang a good song. People are saying, we are clapping, and I feel good. There's no like, oh, just switch off. Just turn on the humble switch. It's not a switch, right? It's it's like a constant battle almost. Like there may be split seconds where you feel like, oh yeah, I did great. And then when you suddenly realize, oh, I'm great because there's someone greater than I. There's a constant, I don't know, like,
because you are who you are, or because you're a child of God and everything has come from God, and therefore you take it, you do lah. Of course, when people applaud you, you like that. Otherwise, why are you standing on stage doing what you're doing, or why are you painting for people to, but there's a sense of, like you say lah, actually there's a nice way how you put it, use all of me to show how great you are. Yeah. So what we have is God-given, and therefore we use it to the best of our ability to show back to the people. So we walk the talk and do what we do best, so that it goes back to Him automatically anyway. Yeah. So, but within us, you're right, like the humble switch.
I don't know. There's no such switch, I guess. But let's talk about this whole creative thing. from within the church. I mean, throughout history, right? In general, I'm talking in general terms. You know, when radio first came out, the church was generally slower to embrace and adopt it because it's a new thing. It's seen as all this nonsense coming out on the airwaves. Let's reject this, and then only later try to embrace it. You know, it keeps happening, right? Then it was TV. Oh, this is the devil's box, and then it's the internet. Oh, full of porn. We should not have anything to do with it. And then now churches are trying to get online and stuff like that. So sometimes the church can be, and again, I'm just speaking generally, not to say that this is the case all the time, but a bit more critical when something new comes up and creative, right? It's just a very long way to get my questions. So sorry. But what I'm trying to ask is that just like how the church may have misunderstood some of this technology, do you feel as a creative the church may have misunderstood you and your schedule and your priorities? Do you feel like as a creative, man, I wish they would understand my schedule a little bit more. Don't pressure me lah. It comes to cell group lah. Serve on the worship team. You think I singer means my serve on worship team is it? Can I wash toilet? I don't know. I mean,
the whole misunderstanding thing, I mean, or just music in general, music, secular music is the devil's music kind of thing and all that. I don't know if it's so much a thing of today. Maybe when I was a little bit younger, I don't get that very much. So I'm like,
okay,
I don't think so. Yeah.
So, for example, if you're expected to be in church, but you have to skip church because you have some sound check, do you feel any stares? Do you feel any like
not really,
whispers?
but
Okay.
that's again a very personal thing. Like I say, so before I would find every excuse lah. It's just automatic tau. Oh, but I finished work so late. Can I actually get up and go to church? No, cannot lah. So it becomes a norm because I'm prioritizing work. Where after my August 14, 2022 thing, the thing that happened to me, I remember exactly, it's been 3 years now. It's like, no, I don't care. I'm going to church because I want to go to church. So before I used to ask the question like, why? Like, I can watch it from home, but it's just never the same. I love how when you walk into church and it's praise and worship and you just burst into tears because you're so overwhelmed. That is just something you cannot achieve if you're watching it online. I don't think lah. I'm sure you can, but so I make it it's my choice now. No matter how late ka, whatever ka, I need to prioritize going. So it is a choice. So again, and because you make that choice, and there are times when I can't go to church because obviously I'm not in the country or I'm in another state or whatever. But I don't think that the church is that judgmental. I don't think so.
Okay.
So at least not against me lah. I'm not experienced like, she's not coming to church, look at her.
Good.
How dare she go away for 3 weeks and come back now? I don't get that. No.
Okay, that's great. I mean, there's a lot more understanding, a lot more grace. It's so refreshing to hear. Have you ever experienced anything like that? Or?
I haven't actually experienced it myself. I know a lot of friends, colleagues have. I personally haven't, but I think just by virtue of hearing some of these stories, I think for a long time, the reason why I didn't want to have anything to do with church. So I always had a personal relationship with Jesus, but I never wanted to go to church. I would only go to church just to appease my parents. But I didn't want anything to do with being part of a ministry. Because I basically just projected stories I'd heard from other people onto every other, onto every church leader, onto every youth pastor that tried to reach out to me. So I had this maybe slightly unfair bias against people, against Christians and church people and church leaders. So maybe I'll share a kind of what surprised me. So the story with HTBB is that, before the team came to plant that church here in KL, I was part of a connect group, and it was a connect group made up of people who attended different churches, but we all felt that we were kind of misfits in the different churches that we went to, because we weren't really plugged in, not by any fault of the church, but simply because we just, for whatever reason, assumed they won't get us, and so we formed this little community, much like this actually. And we met for about 3 years, and then one day one of our leaders just says, hey, there's these guys coming from the UK. They're going to start a church here. They don't have a core team. There's a good 20 plus of us here. Like, would you guys want to be part of this? And I was like, straight away, like, you know what? I'm not interested. So I stopped attending that group. And then I remember they were like, Leon, they're coming down. They're coming down for dinner. Why don't you just meet them? Just come and say hi. Have dinner with them. And so I said, okay lah. Maybe I made a deal with God. I said, okay, God, if you want me to go for this thing, I've got a huge presentation that evening actually. So if you really want me to go for this thing, figure out a way to cancel that presentation.
Wow.
So I prayed that, and then I drove off to work, and that was in the morning. And then come 5 p.m., just a little bit before we were going to have to do that presentation, all of a sudden, the fire bell in our office went off. And it was this massive disruption, the whole thing. And so we did the whole fire drill. There wasn't anything wrong. We went back into the office, and at that point, we realized, oh gosh, like there's no power. And so our CEO just said, hey guys, like that presentation we were going to have today, I think let's just catch up tomorrow. I go, oh gosh, okay, it looks like God, you got a funny sense of humor. So I said, I'm going to go for this thing. And as I'm driving there, I realized that, I looked at the T-shirt that I was wearing, and I was wearing a T-shirt that was it was basically Jesus and the 12 disciples at the Last Supper. But instead of Jesus and his disciples, they were faces of some of my favorite hip-hop artists.
Oh, okay.
So therein was the second test. I said, oh my goodness, I'm wearing a completely blasphemous T-shirt. I said, God, if you want me to be a part of this community, then my prayer is that I won't feel judged by these pastors. You know, if I get any sort of judgy vibes, then I'm out. So I get to their house. I'm walking in. I'm trying to find them, and then don't know who these people are. I'm just walking over to where the food is, and all of a sudden, this guy, he just comes up from behind. He's like, "Mate, that is an amazing T-shirt." Turns out this guy is Dan Molest, who was our associate vicar at the time. And so he not only did not judge my T-shirt, but he loved it, and he took a picture of it because he's like, I've got a friend back in the UK who's going to love this T-shirt.
Wow.
So that for me was actually quite a surprise, actually, that actually, you know what, like Christian leaders are maybe not actually as judgy as we might think. Sure, there are some probably in some parts of the world who are, but I think for the most part, everyone is just trying to help others really be better human beings, as you were saying earlier.
So what we're learning is that when there is a supportive community, church, it can be very powerful because then you are liberated to do what you've been called to do. Because serving God can be in the church or out of the church as long as it's still serving God. And so when there's a supportive community that's powerful, there may be some who exist in not so supportive kind of groups. But what we're hearing is that when there is support, when there's encouragement, when there's belief, it's quite powerful. And at the same time, as a creative, you also have a choice to make, right? You can be like, I know I had a long night, I'm not going to church tomorrow. Or you can say, you know what? People wake up to run, to prepare for a marathon. I'm going to wake up and prepare my heart for the week, you know? Yeah, so awesome. Thank you so much for that. One question from me, and then we're going to look at questions from the people that are here. What do you think, what would you say is your unique contribution as a creative to, I guess, the church and the world at large? So what do you bring So like engineers, their contribution is we make bridges. Now you can cross rivers. Or like, I'm a banker. So like, I help you save your money and, whatever, right? But what is your unique contribution? Because some people might say, you just draw. Or like, you just sing. Like, okay, what? But what do you think is your calling? What's your unique contribution to the church and also the world? Not that they're different. It's just, different expressions.
I think for me, it's some people have said I'm a bit of a weird creative because
Aren't all creative?
I have, yeah, actually, well, aren't we all? But I think in my case, I've probably realized over time that my sweet spot isn't actually in being kind of the practitioner of the thing. So when I was trying to really work on my singing and developing that, and I would always realize that I would hit a plateau. Similarly with art as well, when I was just thinking about the medium and trying to be the best kind of painter, I always felt that there was a bit of a limit. But I talked earlier about how I think for me there's always been this kind of opposing side as well. This interest in other maybe slightly less creative areas, and then that's played out in my work and in what I'm doing right now. And so that's why I serve in a more kind of creative capacity in church, but I'm also part of a consulting firm as well. And so I think over time I've just kind of accepted that actually my real value or contribution actually is being able to bridge the gap between, just as I said, bridge the gap between secular and church. Actually creative and really developing a sense of industry and how do we bring in structure but also strategy to make sure that your creative work, that whatever message, whatever story that you're trying to tell is being told to the right people at the right time as well.
Wow, so good. Thanks so much. How about you?
What he said.
What he said. What he said.
I don't know that I bring anything extremely unique. I maybe stand out a little bit as someone who is different in the Malaysian music industry. And again, it really does just come back to closing that gap because we all try to be the best that we can be, and yet we fall. And to keep that gap really, really, really small, or try to just get rid of the gap altogether. But at the end of the day, you are put where you're put for a reason. You do the best that you can. No? I don't know if me being a singer is not any different than a doctor being a doctor in the clinic or. What puts it out?
And that's fine.
We
are figuring out. Yeah. Okay. So let's take some questions from the people that are here. They are mostly anonymous. It's the same guy asking the question, Mr. Anonymous. This person is asking all the questions. Okay, so of course you guys know that you can vote the questions that someone may be asking a question that you want to ask yourself. Just vote it to push it up there.
He's hesitating. I think it's a hard question.
Not hard. It's just I don't know how to ask it, but I'll figure it out. But okay, so someone is asking, and these are some practical questions. Okay, I guess I'll ask you this. Someone's asking, how do you get somewhere in the music scene? How do you get somewhere? I guess somewhere meaning a certain level of success, achievement.
Or just getting out there, maybe. So my break was Malaysian Idol. I think with technology, with all these reality shows, with social media, with YouTube and stuff, there's just way too many ways to put yourself out there. So before you needed to go to a recording studio, hire an engineer, producer. Now you can do it with your phone. You can record music on your phone. So there's just so many ways for you to get out there. And to build like a fan base.
Do you think that accessibility makes it also in a sense harder now compared to before when everyone is able to do it? Like you've got such a saturated market.
Is it, sorry,
Do
is
you
it
think it's also because in a way you're saying that it's more accessible, it's easier for you to put stuff out there, right? There's less barriers, like you don't have to pay for studio time.
Yes.
But the fact that it's easier, also more people you're essentially
Trying to
competing
put
with
it out,
more
yeah.
people, right? Do you find that
So like more
a bit
competition
easier? Yeah.
in a
Not
sense.
really. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd listen to someone and I would have no clue. Not to be disrespectful, but because there's just so many people out there putting stuff out there, and then you look at their followers or you look at their YouTube channel, you're like, wow. So where did this child come from? You know what I mean? Like where did somebody just out of nowhere just, where we are trying so hard here in the real world, we're trying so hard to make it, or so yeah, there are many ways. I think if you're passionate about something, then therefore you need to really put in the work. You have to be passionate about what you're doing, and
Yeah.
then you have to, what's the word, asah your
Yeah.
talent, whether it's singing, whether it's playing the guitar, whether it's acting, whether it's dancing, whatever it is that you're really passionate about. And this is also another thing that I like to say to people, is that people always assume that in order to be put up there, you need to look a certain way. You're chasing the wrong thing. Instead, use whatever's given to you, your voice, your dancing skill, your acting skill, whatever. Really put work into it, and then when they recognize you, the other things come with it. The fame, the money. Fame and money is not a bad thing. Just prioritize your actual gift so that there is substance, there is something there. Don't just be out there for the sake of being out there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this for both of you, right? In your art, so it just says you're painting and music, right? As a Christian, do you try to insert Christ, some kind of Christian message into your art? Like, when I was younger and trying to make it and all that, like I'm a Christian, I'm always like, I must write a song, and the song must have Jesus inside. Like, if not, then it's not very good. I'll feel guilty not doing it. Like, is that important to you? Like, everything must have your faith in it, Jesus in it, Christ in it. And if so, how? If not, why?
Personally, I don't really do really explicitly Christian. So I mean, it depends what the definition of injecting your Christian.
Yeah.
Let's say in the case of painting, injecting Christian imagery. What does that look like? I think for me, I would never just do a painting of Jesus and say, there's my Christian painting.
Right.
I think my approach has always been like, what's a principle that I'm trying? What's a biblical principle that I want people to sort of connect with, and starting with the principle first, then thinking, okay, what will be the best way to get that across? It might not necessarily be a picture of Jesus, but it might be, let's say, a painting of a wave, for example.
Yeah.
Because the wave maybe embodies this sense of, the sense of what it's like to walk a Christian life, right?
Yeah.
Like you see this wave, it looks intimidating, because actually to follow Jesus, there is a cost to it. Sometimes, sometimes it can be uncomfortable. It might force you to say no to certain requests.
Yeah.
It might also cause you to be able to, to have to set yourself apart in an environment where maybe something is the norm, and in your case, you decide, I'm not going to participate in it, and that creates a little bit of alienation.
Yeah.
So there's a cost to the Christian walk. But I think a life with Jesus is actually not running away from those things that you're afraid of, but essentially riding into that wave. And it's only if we ride into the wave that there's actually exhilaration and there's fun, just as a surfer is able to find that sweet spot in a wave. So that's how I have approached some of my more maybe Christian works, through imagery like that. Because to me, my true north has always been, how do I just bring things of Christ to a wider audience? And if I just put Jesus on a cross, that might alienate a certain audience, right? But if I do something or paint something, or whether it's in painting, whether it's in things that I write, or whether it's in music, that can connect with someone on a more deep level, regardless of their background, I feel that's a lot more powerful, actually.
Yeah. How about you, like singing? I mean, you're so public. Like,
So if I was a gospel singer and I wrote my own songs, it's a no-brainer.
yeah.
My own songs, it's a little bit more susah lah. But I also believe that the world has changed so much. So what we used to think as the way it should be is not the way it should be now lah, how people perceive it. So whatever the Bible teaches now, as much as they can go against it. If you look in some parts of the world, they're just going totally against the Bible. So now we've become the weird ones where we're trying to do things right. We've become like, you're so weird. Where men are becoming women are becoming men, and just how social media is such a toxic, crazy place. And you see some of the comments on it where they're beginning to say that so there was something in the States that happened in Times Square or something during Christmas where they had the whole birth of Christ thing on the big screen, and then you think, oh my God, that's so beautiful, and then you look at the comments and you get stuff like, oh my God, why are you shoving religion in people's faces where it's not? Or they're making it seem as if Christianity is like a fairy tale, or Jesus was, just some character from some whatever. So with times being so, what's the word? Just dire lah, if you want to put it like that, right? I think there's so much weight in positivity, where you want to win over the darkness with light, and it would be great if I could sing about Jesus and in my secular songs, but because of where we are, so if you're looking at the world in whole, and then if we're llooking at our country, it's even more unacceptable, or due to whatever it is, insecurity. I don't know how to put it into words, but I think there's so much power in. So the light always wins over darkness, right? So there's power in putting out these. There's a big secret that I cannot tell you all yet.
Oh.
That I re-recorded something.
Okay.
That I feel is so. It embodies what I'm saying right now.
Right,
Where light over darkness.
Yeah.
Positivity. So in my case right now, I think that's what you can do lah. Okay. So I'm not singing with hidden dark messages in my songs, or like, people, all these big artists who put out songs and then suddenly people pay attention to the lyrics and like, oh my goodness, did he actually say that? Where there's blasphemy or cussing out, whatever, So I think after rambling so much, I think what I'm trying to say is that in what I do, it's important for me, and it's always been a part of me to sing about good stuff, about good things, about positivity, about light.
Yeah. Good. Have any of you ever had to turn down a job or project, or have been rejected of, like taken a job taken away from you because of your belief or your faith? Has that ever happened?
We've not had a project taken away by us per se because of my faith, but I think there have been instances. There was one actually recently where I think because of my faith and my value system, we had to turn down a project, and this was a project in PEMANDU, which it was for an international government. And it would have been really, really helpful money for the company. It was a big government contract, but there were just some kind of dodgy technicalities, like in the way that they wanted the transactions to happen.
Yeah.
Now we couldn't. It's an assumption, but because there was no real certainty in terms of how we would facilitate those transfers, we figured it's better to not take the risk.
Right. Yeah.
And so we had to turn away from
turn down something because of your own convictions.
And I was so encouraged because it was just 2 weeks ago, I was talking to Nehemiah Lee, who's this incredible guy who builds these retaining walls that you see across all of our highways. And he was just sharing, I mean, I thought that contract value was a pain to have to turn away from. But then he told me that there was once, just before the pandemic, he had to turn away a $200 million contract for a similar reason, because he was clean, but he had to then partner with another party, and that party had a reputation for doing things a little strangely.
Wow.
I don't.
Have you?
No, I don't. Can't remember. Don't think so. But I did get into trouble with the song that we put out for the church that was in Bahasa.
Yeah.
Oh, I got into a lot of trouble for that one.
Yeah.
But it's okay,
It's okay.
because a lot more people went to listen to the song. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think there's a verse in the Bible, right? Sometimes what the enemy meant for evil, God can turn it around for good. Yeah. How God is a creative God himself.
Yes, of course.
Yes, I think we have only time for one more question, and there's a million questions here, and I don't know which one to pick. Which one should I pick?
The spiciest one.
What's it? Okay. If I ask a spicy one, I still have to ask another one, because I don't want to end with the spicy one. Because the spicy one, it has so many votes, and I don't know.
Wow.
I guess I don't know. I guess it's related to tonight's topic because of the industry as an assumption. Let's just ask it and see where we go, all right?
Can edit, right?
What are your thoughts on marijuana?
Okay, I'd like to answer this, please.
Yes.
So, I was naughty. I used to drink.
Okay.
I don't drink anymore. It's been about 3.5 years since I quit. I have never smoked a cigarette except for when I was about 6-7 years old. I found my father's cigarette outside, and I was very curious about what is this about. And then I did it exactly like how he would do it, like I swear I wanted to, I don't know, it was so disgusting, I couldn't take it in, but then it was stuck here, I couldn't take it out, and then I did this whole Indian drama, cough, and I will never touch you again, and I threw it away. So that was it. That taught me not to ever touch it again. Marijuana, I have asked so many of my friends what it's like, and then they explain it to me, and I'm like, oh, I might as well drink. So I have never tried marijuana.
Right.
Virgin.
Okay.
I have smoked a lot of cigarettes and smoked a lot of marijuana.
Okay. Right.
So I'm not.
So we have both of you
because this
here,
is on
huh?
camera, and Abel, Miles, if you're watching, I'm not condoning it, not endorsing it. But I guess what's the nature of that question is the question about whether or not it's right or wrong. I think if it's a right or wrong thing, I guess generally the Christian approach is always that all things are permissible, but not all things are helpful.
Yeah.
So I think it depends what is your context. In the same way as, like drinking, right? Drinking, it's not, drinking alone is not a sin.
Yeah.
But getting drunk is not helpful.
Yeah.
So, sometimes, and I've asked myself the same thing, because I drink occasionally. I don't, not in excess, but I do drink. But if I am gonna be in the company of someone who maybe isn't drinking, who has quit drinking, or maybe I'm in a context where this particular church or this particular congregation has a different view of it, then if I were to drink, then that becomes, while it's permissible, it's no longer helpful anymore, because that just creates a little bit of division between me and the other congregation.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same with marijuana. If it's a question of can we do it, can we not, I don't think it's as easy as a yes or a no.
It's not legal here, is it?
Well, that helps. The fact that it's not legal in Malaysia,
isn't, right?
so
It's not
just
legal,
follow the
is it?
law, lah.
I mean, there are nuances and I don't know. But I'm glad you went that way, because you went the way of principle rather than just addressing the thing itself. Because then there's no end, right? Because marijuana could be, some would argue, well, but it's legal in some countries.
Yeah, but also, isn't it used for, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it used for health purposes?
Yeah, it is. So that's the point. So that's what I'm assuming that some people are asking, hey, if some people
but
are
our
using it.
government still say illegal war.
Yeah. No, so okay, let's just say it's legal.
Yeah.
Just hypothetically, it's legal. It's legal here.
Should we have
Should we?
an opinion about it if it's legal?
No, I think your point still stands. Like the Bible when it was written, God foresaw that one day we'll be talking about this. That someone will say, but it's legal what? But it's medicinal what? But it's healthy what?
I want to say everything in moderation, but I'm not sure.
It's permissible, but okay, so just because you can do something doesn't mean you should
Exactly.
do it. I think there is a differentiation.
Yes.
And yes, I think we have to admit that there are some things that are in the gray. Not everything's black and white.
So if I may speak as an
speak.
ex-drinker,
Yeah.
I think alcohol. Yeah, I don't drink anymore. Good girl already.
Yes.
I think in the case of alcohol, what I've observed and learned is that it amplifies your emotions. So if you're happy, you're like extremely happy. But if you're angry, you're enraged. So that's no good.
So anything in excessiveness is not.
Where do you draw the
encouraged.
line? You think,
Yeah, so
you know,
that's the thing,
it's,
yeah.
that's why I don't drink anymore. Stop.
Yeah. Yeah. What is too much? What's too little? It's just impossible to have the same line for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spicy. Okay.
It's
Pedas.
spicy. Yeah, quite spicy. Yeah. I mean, like some people argue about tattoos also. I don't know. Do you
So good
shall we? You want to
Christian
go
boy.
there? Let's go there.
a worship leader
Christian
in an
boy.
Anglican church? What? Do you wear long sleeves when you worship lead nowadays just to...
I started to recently because when I never used to, and then but back again to this point on all things are permissible, but not all things are helpful.
So
when
I want to argue with you, I want to argue with you. They say, right, it's like when you decorate the church. So this is maybe him decorating the church lah.
Ah. Because our body is a temple of the Holy
Temple,
Spirit.
right?
is
No,
it?
I mean, if you want
And
to
then-
look at it like that lah. So
you
okay,
decorating
this-
the temple of the Holy
to my
Spirit.
thesis next
Yes,
time. That's
yes.
a good one.
Okay.
That's very good.
You see how we can justify anything.
Yeah, I'm
But you were
a
gonna say-
copywriter as well, so
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
trained to justify all sorts. But I was saying why I started to wear a long sleeve, still see it, but it's a little bit more concealed,
Yeah.
is because about when we started to do our online services, now obviously you've got a much wider audience watching your church content.
Yeah.
Someone actually commented and was very upset with my tattoos.
Oh, yeah.
And this person said, in the chat, Leon, this is not the first time you have done this. Why are you doing this?
Oh, he's keeping tabs. Okay.
Yeah, doing this as in having tattoos. And then this person said, it's totally unhelpful because in that service, then both my wife and I, Andrea, we were hosting the service. So this person was saying it's really unhelpful because I have a teenage son, and because you have your tattoos out
Yeah.
in full glory,
Yeah.
that's causing him to ask questions like,
Yeah.
why can't I get a tattoo?
Yeah.
And of course, part of me was like, "What are you talking about? Where is it? Where do you see in the Bible?" Okay, it does say in the Bible, but that's the whole other theological debate that we can have.
We don't have the time.
which we don't have the time for.
Yeah.
But basically, there are things that are taken out of context. If you
Yeah.
read the entire passage, that there's nothing particularly wrong with having a tattoo.
Yeah.
But to the point of, is this helpful? I realized, well, perhaps it's actually not helpful for this family. The fact that I'm showing my tattoos
Yeah.
might be causing slightly difficult conversations in the home. So if there's a way that I can help to reduce distraction and help people to be pointed to God and not to my tattoos or lack of tattoos,
Yeah.
then I think it would be better for me to just conceal them.
Yeah, so I'm going to just insert this in because it's trendy. That action there is very mindful, very demure.
Good segue into your Gen Z topic coming up.
I think we should make this into a topic. One day it'll be like Christian tattoos, Christian marijuana. Got such thing or not? Yeah, I think it's a topic on its own. It's all these so-called gray areas, but I think what you decided to do was not. Some might say, "Oh, but you're hiding it. You're not being true." No, I think you're doing what Paul was saying. Like if me eating something stumbles someone, I won't do it for the sake of not stumbling that person. Just like how a parent will not do certain thing in front of their children, and they're not being fake or pretending. They're just being responsible. So I think there's value in our choices and in our decisions in thinking about the next generation.
Yeah.
That could be your literal own children or just the next generation watching you, learning from you. And I think we'll end on that note. And that there is a possible episode where we'll talk about, stuff like that. But thank you so much. We only have time to chat up to this point.
Thank you.
And I know all of you are very busy people, and you've taken time out of your busy schedule to do this. And I hope that as this goes out, that whoever's listening will catch something, will learn something, will be inspired. I think that's the point of what we're doing here, right? We're trying to inspire someone else to live not a double life, but a single mission life, that you don't have to be different in church, at home, at work, but you can be the same God-honoring person that makes mindful choices. Amen. So thank you so much,
Thank you.
Jaclyn and Leon. Really enjoyed this. And to all of you who are here, thanks for being here. And if you can join us in our discussions and our devotion time, please do search us on social media, Generations My, that's Generations MY, on Instagram, all the other channels as well. And we'll be glad to connect with you. Thank you so much.
Well, that's all for now. We hope you've been inspired and impacted by the content today. If you have been blessed by what you've experienced, well, you know what to do. Please like, subscribe, and share it with your family and friends. We love hearing from you, so please comment and do share your feedback, thoughts, or even questions and content ideas. Search, follow, or tag us on social media at Generations My. For more information, check out bit.ly/GenerationsMy. Until next time, God bless.